Shining Armor, Pinkie Pie, A True Love by Siege Down. Sometime after Twilight became the princess of friendship, her brother Shining Armor was so proud about his little sister, and even that he was proud of her, he was even proud to have a sister who is a princess, but mostly being proud of her. But when it's deep down, he felt lonely. Most of the time, when he has in Canterlot, he's actually been working with the Royal Guards, training new recruits, and will spend time with his family, mostly his parents or some close friends in Canterlot. He had often been asked to be seeing some of the Royal Guards' friends, like dating them, because many of the mayors within the Royal Guards, which they know, has been interested in dating Shining Armor. And Shining Armor was not much as for dating at the moment, but he couldn't deny it or even turn them down, so he actually accepted every ask from those mayors. But at most of them, Shining Armor didn't feel much as a connection. The two last dates he had was about 2 months ago. Most of those mayors were just talking about their friends, how much they're love of fashion, and everything else. And he felt bored. And after only about 4 dates, he decided he was not interested in dating anymore. Now he decided to focus mostly in training new recruits for the Royal Guard. But when he has his spare time, he often goes to his parents to spend time with them. But even they had noticed how much Shining Armor is either spent time with at the guard or at their home. He never spent any time with any other ponies. Well, sometimes with some of his friends, but not as much as that. But one day his father told him that he should take a time off from work, from his duties, and go see his sister. And of course, he didn't want to say no to his father because he wanted to see his sister again. He hadn't seen her for about a few months, so he decided to go there after wrote her a letter telling her that he is coming over to visit. And so Twilight was so excited to see her big brother again. When he arrived, both Twilight and Big Shining Armor decided to spend as much time they could, but then something did happen. Twilight had to take care of the school, so she was unavailable most of the time. So Shining Armor decided to spend time with himself, because Spike was often helping Twilight at the school or the castle, so he couldn't spend time with him. The other ponies of the male characters from Ponyville was actually either Big Mac or Discord he could spend time with. Spike was one of his good friends. Even Discord has actually been a very good friend to Shining Armor, but this time he felt he didn't want to have any company, so he decided to just be by himself. He walked around the most in town, greeting some ponies there, talked to them a bit, and even had a lunch by himself. But when he went to Sugarpip Corner to bring some cupcakes back to the castle to share them with Twilight, he actually talked to Pinkie Pie about basically anything. First, he asked her how being a teacher is going and everything else, and she actually said that she likes to be a teacher, like sharing all the good information she has, how to teach them how to bake, especially telling her students about her past adventures. Then suddenly, Shining Armor asked Pinkie if she wanted to maybe just hang out sometime, maybe grab something to eat, just talk or something. And Pinkie Pie just smiled and said yes, and that she could the next day. So the next day, Pinkie Pie was waiting outside Sugar Corner for Shining Armor, which he did, and they actually went to a local restaurant to have some lunch. They speak a lot of things actually. We talked about mostly about Castle and the Canterlot, how the Royal Guards is going, about her being a teacher, and about the adventures. They talked a lot. And for no some reason, Shining Armor felt happy with having Pinkie Pie as a company. He likes her. She is a very outspoken, very energetic. She's very hyperactive as a personality. She's always happy, always sharing good moments, always sharing a smile, which always brings him to smile. And he even likes her bake because every time when she makes a cake or cookies or cupcakes, he tries some of them and they are just so delicious. But there's just one thing that he wished to say is that he wished he had to find a pony like her to be with. Because when he came back to Camelot, he was so bored but mostly focused on his duty. But then his parents had noticed how much happy he were after some time after he came back from Ponyville. But he didn't say much about what he did, except that he spent some time with Twilight or his her friends, just had some good time. But then, only about 2 months later, Pinkie Pie has suddenly started to act a little bit more odd. At first, her friends didn't pay much attention about it because they thought that this was just some her random personality, always happy, always a hyperactive personality. But for most recent times, when some of her friends mentioned Shining Armor, she felt a little bit more energy, happier, and they did pay much attention about it first. But after some time, they pieced the puzzle piece by piece. But they didn't exactly completed it as any correct conclusion. They thought that she liked Shining Armor because he's a friend of her, and that they had almost the same interests. They like to talk about anything, and about that he's very skilled, trained soldier. But it happened that one time when Rarity went to Sugar Corner to ask Pinkie about some particular some things that and even trying to order some cupcakes for her class. She saw that Pinkie Pie was standing at the one of the tables in the kitchen reading a letter, and Pinkie Pie was startled when she saw that Rarity was standing there, and she hid the letter, and Rarity asked what the letter was about. She answered that it was from a friend, and there was just a friend that was actually she had been seeing for some time, and just happy to see the letter. And Rarity didn't pay much attention about it because it happens that Rarity has seen Pinkie Pie get some letters from friends before, so she didn't pay much attention. But then, even Applejack, even Rainbow had noticed how much time that Pinkie Pie often goes to the post office more often than usually. Often brings either letters or a package, or even she sent a package. And one time, Rainbow managed to see the address, Canterlot. And Rainbow wonders who could she send a box or a package to Canterlot. But then it could be some friend that she knows who lives in Canterlot, so she didn't pay much attention about it. But this occurrence happened more often. So Rainbow started talking about this with either Applejack or even Twilight. But they didn't focus most about it. But then suddenly, or by some bad incident, Twilight received a package, but it was supposedly be for Pinkie, and she noticed the writing was actually shining armor, and part of her name was actually a small heart in one of the corners of the name. So she wonders about this, but she didn't open the package because she respects Pinkie's privacy. She took the package and went to the sugar corner, and when Pinkie saw that the box was for her, she was so excited and she opened it without forgetting that Twilight was standing right in front of her. It also was just comic books, but then Twilight noticed one of was actually some of her brother's favorite, but she didn't much. She she knows that Pinkie actually reads some of the comics, so that didn't pay much attention to that. But then it happened again and again. But the third time, it wasn't comics. It was actually flowers. Flowers to Pinkie, but only to them. The card said, to Pinkie Pie, from your secret admirer. Now something was up. Twilight and her friends started asking around some of the other friends at this scene if they had seen Pinkie Pie with any some special song pony. But seems not that. But then Twilight asked Pinkie who this packages or the flowers were even from. But she didn't say much, because for some reason there, she denies any involvement in romance because she hasn't much time for it. Being a teacher, or at the work at the sugar corner, or looking after cake twins. But then something was very odd, because one day even Twilight received a letter, but this time it was actually for Pinkie Pie, and it was from Shining Armor, but he had placed the wrong letter in the wrong envelope. When Twilight read the letter, she was saying, "How are you? I'm fine," and that I missed you. Then thought that his older brother missed her so much. I missed you were spent so special time together, especially when you bring the cupcakes or you send the cupcakes to me. Always brings me a smile. Then Twilight noticed some of the word writing was actually mentioned cupcakes. She hadn't even received any, and she hadn't sent any. You're truly boyfriend Shining Armor. That was the answer. Twilight went straight to the sugar corner and handed the letter to Pinkie, and she was so red in her face, because she had received the other letter was meant for Twilight, and even some of her friends was actually even there, and Pinkie Pie was then asked by Twilight to Elise why she had suddenly a letter saying from her boyfriend, Shining Armor. Boyfriend? How long had they been seeing each other? Pinkie Pie seems to have been dating Shining Armor for the past 5 months. At the same time, when he actually came to see Twilight 5 months ago, at the same time, he actually had asked her out, and she said yes, and they have been seeing each other since then. Even though they have been writing letters back and forward, Pinkie Pie was now Shining Armor's girlfriend, or more else. It seems that Shining Armor had actually proposed to Pinkie, and she has said yes. And they were expecting this wedding to be held within a few months, but before then they decided to wait to inform and announce this engagement to his family and friends. And Twilight, she was in so shocked. She fainted, and even then, she couldn't be waked up. Her friends had to carry her back to the castle where she waked up and was so stunned afterwards. Starlight explained to Twilight what just happened, and she thought that was a dream, but she confirmed it wasn't a dream. Only about a couple of days later, Shining Armor actually came to Ponyville to see Pinkie. He had been invited by Twilight to come to the castle to see that Pinkie was actually there, but she was there, but not alone. Shining Armor saw that Pinkie was next to Twilight, and seeing that Pinkie was so red in her face, at first he didn't know what was happening, until he realized when he looked at Twilight, he looked at him with a curious look. Then he realized Twilight knows about the engagement. When he asked her, she wasn't mad. She was just curious why she hadn't even mentioned this before to him or her family, the rest of the family. Shining Armor told her that he was a bit scared how her parents react, that had been engaged for only about 5 months after they actually been seen. Normally, ponies actually became married only about after a few years, but Shining Armor and Pinkie felt they were the soulmates. But there was another thing that they hadn't even told Twilight or any other ponies about. Turns out, Pinkie was pregnant. She was having twins. That was not the reason why Shining Armor married her, because they love each other so much and they couldn't wait to be married. Not because of that she was having twins, but when she was told that she was going to be an aunt, she fainted twice. And when they woke up the second time, she ran up to Shining Armor, hugged him, and said that she was crying, but most of happiness. She couldn't wait. She couldn't wait to be a mother, an aunt. And then a few months later, they actually had the wedding at Candlewood. As much as a surprise, Shining Armor's parents was not as mad against that. But then, sometime, this wedding was actually one of the biggest in the family for a long time. A few months later, they actually went to their honeymoon. They normally should go on a few weeks only to start away, but since Shining Armor had his duties and recruitment to take care of, he couldn't go off on that. But then something did actually happen. Pinkie felt that she wanted to be back more at home instead and in Cantlot. Because when they spent time in Cantlot, she was so stressful because running back and forward and between at the home of his parents and her home at the rock farm. But then it came a message to Shining Armor that Pinkie was in labor, and he rushed as fast as he could back to Ponyville, where she was giving birth. Shining Armor was so excited, and even his friends and family was there. But then the doctors informed Shining Armor something went wrong. There were some complications, and one of the twins didn't make it. They lost one of the twins, as a daughter. Both Pinkie Pie and Shining Armor took it very hard, but at least one of the daughters actually survived. But she was in a critical situation. They didn't believe that she was going to make it herself, but Shining Armor and Pinkie actually stayed at their daughter's side at every moment, hoped the daughter would survive. And she actually did. And they were just happy they did a daughter survived, and they named her Sparkle Pie. Sparkle Pie was actually one of those very happy child when she grew up, even as she spent time. And when she was about 5 years old, she was told that she was supposed to have a twin sister, but sadly, she didn't make it during the birth. And she missed her sister, but she is happy that she made it. And like her mother, she actually loved to bake cookies, cakes, and actually became Sugar Bell's apprentice. And much later, in her life, she actually became a baker like her mother, and sometimes even helped at the Sugar Cube Corner or Sugar Bell. And that's how Pinkie Pie, Shining Armor, found true love and got a family. The end.